Hey everybody, I want to talk about character writing today, so we're going to talk about Unavowed. Unavowed is a point-and-click adventure, so I skipped it when it first came out because I'm pretty burned out on those. But someone said it was their favorite of the year, and that it had more in common with the original Mass Effect game than a point-and-click adventure. And she was right. This is a real kicker of a game. This gets an A+ from me, and if I had to make a top 10 list, this would probably be on it for the year. This is a fantastic game. I'm not going to spoil the plot points of it, but I am going to talk about the one part of the game I didn't like very much. So that's in many ways worse than spoiling the plot. So if you have any interest in this kind of game, just go play it. It's not that expensive and it's not that long. Just go enjoy it and then come back. This video will still be here. You don't want to go into it thinking about my prejudged, opinions on it. That said, I do have some opinions on it, and we're going to talk about it. What is a character? When I talk about character writing, we have to talk about what a character is. And is a character just a person in your game world? Is a character just someone in your party? Are they realistically written? Well, it doesn't matter how realistically they're written because they have no connection to the story unless you give them one. The character needs to be part of the universe. And I don't mean the character needs to exist within the universe. I mean the character has to literally be a part of the universe, represent a part of the universe. In Mass Effect, for example, there was a core theme of the Paragon versus Renegade dichotomy. And Garrus represented that core theme. Garrus had a really, really meaty role because everywhere you went in the universe, there was always a Paragon or Renegade thing going on. That is an ocean of a theme. It exists, it stretches out into every corner of the universe. It exists in every plot point, on every planet, in every conversation. There is always the option between doing the right thing and damn the consequences, and actually doing what makes sense and following the rules. Those are that is the core dichotomy of Mass Effect, and because that is everywhere, that meant that Garrus, no matter where he was, always had something compelling. He always had something to feel, something to say, something to do, something to regret, because that was so omnipresent of a theme. And that's what it means when someone says, oh, look, the theme resonates. They don't mean, oh, look, it happens to say the same thing twice. No, they mean that because the character represents that theme, they have all of these marvelous things to say and do. I think Garrus is probably the best of the characters in Mass Effect, but the others also represent themes. Like Ashley represents the difficulty humans have in integrating into the wider world, and Liara represents the plot. Now, those aren't oceans. Those are very limited themes. There are a lot of times when those don't come up, and the characters lose a lot of their punch in those times. And that's pretty clear if you actually go back and play the game while you're paying attention, putting aside your own personal preferences for how cute you want your alien women. If you take a look at how they're written and when they have compelling things to say and when they have compelling things to do, when there's none of their theme in the game world, they lean very heavily on being cute. Which, I mean, that's fine, but it's better to have a real ocean of a theme. Well, this game was written with the same concepts, but it falls short. I'm not going to say it falls short of Mass Effect. I think they're probably about equal, but it falls short of what it could have been. The character writing is not as tight as the rest of the game. So, what do I mean? Well, here's a good example. This is Logan. He has a wonderful face. All the portraits in this are just amazing. And he has a good voice actor, and that means that his mediocre character writing gets a pass. People are relatively okay with it, in the same way that you'd be relatively okay with Liara just saying, right, I don't have anything to say here, but yay. Same kind of idea, right? Logan's core bit is that he has a friend ghost, this little girl over here, and he is a recovering alcoholic. Now those two bits are kind of like they're trying to pick two themes at once to make two themes that neither one of them is a core theme, so they're just trying to make sure that there's always one of those things in the game world at once. And it doesn't quite work out, but it doesn't fail because of the theme choices. It fails because of the writing. So, for example, Logan is a recovering alcoholic. So what do you think he talks about? He talks about bars. He talks about drinking. He talks about more bars. He talks about how he's not going to drink again. He talks about how he had a sponsor. He talks about people who he went to Alcoholics Anonymous with. He talks about bars. And maybe he talks about bars? I think he has in the past talked about bars. And here's the thing. That's what we call on the nose. That would be like if Liara came up to you and said, well, I'm here to tell you about the Protheans. They're 20,000-year-old creatures, and they're an important part of the plot, so pay attention. But that's not how Liara does it. Liara is excited. She's like, yeah, this is the coolest shit. Can you imagine how awesome this is? Oh, and they're 20,000 years old, and so awesome. And so Liara lives through her theme. But the theme of alcoholism, he doesn't live through it, he's caged by it. And that's a real shame, because there is a core underlying theme of addiction in this universe, in Unavowed's universe. There are lots of characters who have magic powers, and they can't stop using them, in much the same way that an alcoholic really has to struggle to stop drinking. It's not just me making up a connection either, because, Logan will walk over and he'll say, wow, that guy's power is exactly like my alcohol addiction. It's like, oh my God, why is this game, which is so well written everywhere else and so well voice acted and so well drawn, why was it written on the nose like this? It's just so blunt and so basic, and it ruins it because he's not being given something compelling with his theme. He's just reiterating it. He's not expressing the theme as a character. He is just saying the theme over and over. And it's the same with KK. His friend over here is just a remnant of the past that stays with him, and it comes up a lot, but it never comes up as something that they feel or something that compels them. It's always just him saying that, oh, KK's doing something cute. Isn't that cute? That's not enough. It's related to show, don't tell, right? What he's doing is he's telling the theme over and over and over, and he's never representing it. He's never struggling with his alcoholism, or, he is, because it's a constant thing, but his character is never expressed as struggling with his alcoholism. He's just expressed as having alcoholism and talking about it all the time. And similarly, he's not really talking or expressing about the idea of there is a ghost following him around. What the heck's up with that? Is that a core part of the theme? Is there a thematic resonance there? It's hard to say, because he never lets it resonate. He never lets it compel him. He just talks about how she does something cute. Not good enough. All the characters are designed in this way. They all have some tie to the core nature of the universe. For example, Eli here is the first character that you meet, basically. And he is an older character. Not truly old, not like some of the other characters, but he's much older than he looks. And his whole theme is, when you go into this magic world, who you were stops being a thing. It's messy, it's chaotic, and everything changes. Like, you're just someone completely different now. And that is a core theme of this universe. It is a compelling ocean of content in this universe. It is a theme that touches every edge of this story. And he never gets it right. Oh no, it's always falling just a little bit short. Oh, because he never actually lets that part of the theme drive him. It's part of his backstory, and it's explored as part of his backstory. But when he feels emotions, 99% of the time, those emotions aren't connected to that theme. His emotions are much more basic and obvious. So he's not given that meat, because that meat isn't pulled up to the surface where he can reach it. It's an undercurrent, and it stays an undercurrent. He's never given a chance, or very rarely given a chance, to really let loose and make that emotional resonance happen. And he could have. There are plot points in this game where it would be very, very easy to have him really get driven by that dichotomy, that thing where you stop being who you were and you start being someone else. Yeah, that comes up a lot. And he never really hammers on it. He never really feels. He has feelings, but he never feels because of that. He always feels because of something else. And that's just kind of a waste. And Vickie here is more about the instant change. She's got a lot more in common with Martin Riggs or Garrus. She's a cop, and she stopped being a cop because magic happened, and now she's going to do the right thing, damn the consequences. Very similar to what you might find there. But that is also an ocean of a theme that touches every instance of this universe in the same way that it does with Garrus. And again, it never really expresses itself through her. She rarely gets driven by it. There is so much content there just waiting to be pulled up and mined from that theme. In any given situation, there is a chance for her to decide to do the right thing, damn the consequences, or for her to talk about it and feel it, get driven by it, for her to really express that. Even if she's not expressing it in a way that is core, part of the core theme, she's still someone new here, and she can still talk about it and use that to explore the difficulties in doing something, damn the consequences. Oh wait, those consequences are really big. And that would have been fascinating, and it never happens. At least, I don't think it does. Maybe it happens once or twice. It's just not enough. And then we've got over here one of the other first characters you meet, Mandana, and she represents the difference between being a human and being an inhuman spirit type thing. And again, that's part of the story, not knowing who you are. This theme is a little bit tighter than the others. It doesn't touch every edge of the story, but it runs at the core of the story. It is the beating heart of this story. And you know what? It does not work because she never lets it flow through her. She never really gets a chance to express it. The only times she does is when she's outright saying it. And that's not what I mean. You need to show, don't tell. You need to let it drive you. Garrus doesn't say, I made a renegade choice today. No, instead, he's getting angry. He's getting excited. He's getting fervent. He's demanding that you go over there and do something. And that very rarely happens in that way in this game. It's just always, the theme is largely ignored and treated as backstory until they outright state it. And that's just not tight enough. And a big part of this is how the character stories work. And I can't get into it without getting into really major spoilers, but the character stories don't have anything to do with their themes. And that really shows that they weren't thinking about how to pull those themes into the game world. And that's a real shame, because that is what you need to do in order to make these characters work. Now, I think this game is wonderful. I honestly really do. The only two things I don't like are the character writing and the walking animations, which are awful. But the things I don't like are really interesting because the rest of the game is so sharp. And I'm like, how can you have made this one little flaw? And sure, it's rescued by the pacing and the wonderful storytelling aside from that, and the fantastic voice actors, and these gorgeous portraits. Oh, these are such beautiful portraits. Every single one of them is so vivid. And it's just wonderful. But when you're writing characters, you've got to aim to actually make that part of the universe drive your characters. You can think of it as a muse. It drives the characters, and sometimes it kills them. So That's my thought on character writing, and if you have any comments, leave them down below. Try not to spoil the game in the comments. If you do, make sure to put it, a couple of enters so that it's below the read more. Yep, have a good one.